All right, here we go. We have hip hop history in the building. Marcy's finest, Jaz-O. Welcome back to Vlad TV.
What's going on, brother?
Man, I actually just looked it up. Our first interview was 2009.
Wow, way back.
Way back, 12 years ago.
Yep.
Hey, man, we're still here. We're still healthy. We're still thin, looking good. You know what I'm saying?
Got to.
Who could ask for more?
Stay in shape, drink a lot of water.
There you go. There you go. Well, we've done interviews before, but I really want to get your whole story. And I think now is the right time.
Yeah.
So I want to start in the very beginning. So you grew up in Brooklyn.
Yes.
Marcy Projects.
Yes. The
infamous Marcy Projects, which we've heard about in songs for decades now.
Right, cough up a lung.
Exactly. So what were the Marcy Projects like back then? Because we're talking about the, late 60s, 70s, 80s.
Right. It was crazy. Like, the main, especially when you talk about the 60s, as a kid, what we dealt with going in and out of the building were like young teenagers hooked on heroin.
Yeah.
So, we had to be warned by our parents, stay away from the dope addicts, and most of them had respect, but the truth of the matter is, they were drug addicts, and we had to be careful. Between that, there was a lot less gun violence, because everybody knew each other. So when you're talking about the projects, it never got too much past sticks, chains, and knives. But for the most part, and I'm talking about myself as like a single digit age, around, between like 6 and 8, this is what we saw, it was, we go in the little circle or the big circle and we duke it out, best man hit. And, that's how you got respect. You didn't run from the fight and, you kept it moving.
You talk about, New York during that time. And at that point, it was heroin. You're talking about the 60s and 70s.
Right.
Which is essentially the worst drug out there. If you talk about...
Well, it depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah. I'm just saying that,
I know.
From what I've seen and heard, heroin will make you do things that other drugs may not make you do.
Definitely.
Just so you don't get sick. Like the physical dependency on the drug is so bad that you see people doing damn near anything just to get a fix. What were some of the craziest things that you saw during that time with, having heroin addicts outside your door?
We didn't see, I should mention this. I saw, and I don't want to mention, their family or anything. But I saw one of my best friends, who in which the family I consider family. I watched both of their parents get taken out on the stretcher, and not coming back home.
Overdoses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was probably the first traumatic and most traumatic thing that I ever saw. Fuck all the gunshots, people getting hit or stabbed or whatever. Just, figuratively and literally, that shit hit home. Right? Neighbors in my building, and now both of their parents are gone.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And the way they went out, it was crazy. And and I'm not saying that with any type of judgment or anything. I'm just saying the sadness of it and how to cope with, I couldn't even imagine that, especially back then. I couldn't even imagine that.
Yeah, losing both your parents in an afternoon is, I can't even imagine that either as a small kid. Yeah, this is the dangers of these types of drugs.
Right.
So you're growing up in New York, and hip hop originally was birthed around 1973, but that was in the Bronx with Kool Herc and them.
Right, the whole Sedgwick and Cedar story, yeah.
Yep. But then by 1978, that's when you first started rapping yourself?
Yeah, about 77, 78. My god brother, may he live forever in power, Eric Oliver. There was a thing where, we always had the music out, where they jacked the juice from the light posts and, DJ starts DJing, in one of the parks. And there was this cat, I ain't gonna mention his last name, but Lenny, everybody who knows, they know who I'm talking about. He used to run through the projects talking about, they got the music out. They got the music out. So, once we heard that, it was like some Paul Revere shit. And, Eric one day just asked me, just some reverse psychology shit. Like, yo, I bet you can't rock on the mic like that. I bet you can't rap on the mic. Cause, that was a new thing. Really, that was a thing that the DJs did. The DJs talked on the mic and they said a couple of little 4-line nursery rhyme type things. And so long story short, the reverse psychology worked and I wrote like a little 8-bar rhyme. And, he was fascinated. I was actually fascinated. And that was the beginning. I started writing more. And what a pivotal point was one of my boys from way back when, Ron, he had an uncle that lived in Red Hook Projects named Mango. Well, that's not his real name, but that was his nickname. And, he went by DJ Mango. And, he did a lot of house parties and stuff in the area and, in the Red Hook area, or Red Hook Projects area, I should say. So one night we were at one of the house parties that he was DJing, and Ron was like, yo, didn't you tell me, you be rhyming on the mic and y'all be in the center and this, that, and the other? And I was like, oh, shit. And then he's like, and if you know anything about how the house parties were set up, the DJ setup was usually in one of the bedrooms to give space, in the living room for the dance floor and everything. So we basically, so he's like, yo, if you fuck up, ain't nobody gonna see you. They ain't gonna know who you are. So I was like, got a point. So I did my thing and I heard the responses and, my head went, it was over with. Thus began my, rhyming exploits.
Right, and you're 14 at the time.
Yeah.